So then I can define a function that is like two functions with the two conditions that I want, or 3 or 4, whatever number of conditions or number of predicates I want. So let's say define above predicate. Okay, so that's a predicate that takes the value. It must take something. I'm not gonna call it S so that you wouldn't be confused, but I can call it S if I want, but I'm just gonna call it value. All right, and it just returns whether the value is bigger than 7 or not. Okay, and I'll create another predicate, so function. So I call it range predicate. Also takes value and the range I'm interested in. So let's say I want value. So the condition, so in programming in general, the way you define a range, it would be two conditions connected with an and, right? This is how we do it in Java. So you say value is bigger than or equal to 5, and value is less than or equal to, let's say, 8. Okay? Now, this is how most languages you have to write it. Now, in Python, there's a shorthand for this. If you want to combine two conditions like this, it is also possible to write it in the form that we write it in math. All right, so return value. So value is the main condition in math. If we want to put these two conditions in one expression, how would we say it? So we say value is bigger than or equal to 5 would be in this side, and less than or equal to 8 from this side. So this is how we do it in math, right? And this is how we do it in programming. Now, Python gave us a shorthand to do the same thing in a way that is similar to math. Okay? Now, how can I call the predicate or the filter score? Using the above predicate, I just send it the name of the function, predicate function I want. So here, I'm gonna send it the name here. And another time, I'll send it the other predicate. And now I didn't duplicate the original code, and I have the option to change how the predicate works. So this is the first one here, everything above 7, and here everything between 5 and 8. Yes. Yes. Okay. If nothing in that range, then it would return an empty list. Yeah. So oh, you mean this function? You're talking about this one or this one? So this one, if the value I'm sending is not within the range, it will return false. Okay, let's look into it. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. Okay, so it's gonna be head the first time when we call it with the above predicate. Okay, so let's examine that. So I'm gonna see now when filter first called, okay, the predicate pointed to the function that we defined as the above predicate. Okay, that's what we sent, right? So at the line 4 here, the filter is an empty list. Okay, now we're gonna start looping over the values. So first value is equal 5. Now we're gonna step inside the predicate function to see what's happening there. So the predicate function, we should expect it to go to the above predicate. Now value is not bigger than 7. So this expression should be what? False, right? The result of this expression, if I put it here, the result of this expression is false, and that's what we return. So we return false. So this condition, when we go back, so we're now about to exit this function. When we go back here, the condition was false, so the filter was not changed. Let's examine, let's go here again. Filter, the condition would be false, it's not gonna add it. Now, when we go to the, okay, this one is gonna be false too, it's not gonna be added. And eventually we go to the 8. Now, when we step inside predicate, now because value is 8, which is bigger than 7, the value is true, then that would return true. And then we enter the if statement and add that value to the filtered list. Okay, and then we keep trying. This is keep happening. Now we are about to enter the filter scores in the next call, which is in which we send the range predicate. So I'm gonna step inside here. So now the predicate is now pointing at the range predicate. So I'm just gonna step inside one of them so that you can see it. All right, now value is between 5 and 8, so this expression should be true, and it would return true, and then it will enter the if statement and add the value to the filter. All right, and so on. So I'm gonna step outside. I'm done examining, so I'm gonna step outside and continue my. This clear? A lot of things are gonna build on that. Okay, so make sure you understand this because we're gonna start building on it. Is this a moment of realization? Or? Okay, good. All right. Now another convenient way. Now we see how we define the function for just one line. We defined, and there are so many situations in which we just need one line, and the only reason we wanted is to send it to another function. So oftentimes it's not really meaningful to have a name for the function if it's that short. Okay, and that happens a lot, especially in data science projects. So there is another way, a short way to define this function without a name. Okay, so this is what we call the lambda expression or a lambda function, which is a function, like we can give it a name if we want. We can assign it to a variable, and then we use this variable as the name of the function. Okay, but the lambda expression itself doesn't have a name. It's not like when we define a function, we have to provide a name. No, we can have a lambda function that doesn't have a name. Okay, so we can have a function, it looks like this with a lambda keyword, and then the list of parameters, and then colon, and then the return expression. So it's only used when there's one expression that would return from the function. Yes. Anything, you can send anything. You can send anything. Yeah, so let's say I'm gonna create a fictitious function here that is, we'll take a string just for the case of the comparison. So I'm just gonna call it lambda. I mean, it's not, the lambda expression itself doesn't have a name. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna send it s and return s dot upper, for example. So turn it to uppercase. So just here, it can be one or many parameters, but after the colon, it's just has to be one expression. That is what returns. Okay. Now for this example, I'm gonna give it a name. I mean, I'm gonna create a reference to point to it. So I'm gonna call it uppercase And then now this is pointing to a function. So in order to execute it, I need to precede it with parentheses and send the values I want. So let's say I'm going to send ABC here. Okay, and so that we can see it, I'll print it. All right, so now when I run it, so see what happened? It's just like a regular function, but because sometimes, a lot of times, we have a very short function that have one expression. So we don't want to bother by keeping a lot of names and long definitions. Okay? If I want to give it a name, I can, like this. I can make a variable point to it. But the expression itself doesn't have a name. And the common use of it is to send it to a function that expects another function, like here. So here, instead of defining a function with a name like this, I can just do the exact same thing. I will send the function definition as a lambda function. So lambda, so this one takes one value and returns whether the value is bigger than 7. So that should be exactly the same. Okay, here, I can do the exact same thing without having to have the long definition on the function name if I don't need it otherwise. So I will send it as a lambda expression that takes a value and returns whether this value is between between 5 and 8. No, I can use the longer form of the condition. I can use any condition I want here. As long as one expression at the end, it should be good. So that should give us the same result as well. So let's see if we scroll up a little bit. Yeah, see? It's the exact same result. Yes. It's a shorter way, cleaner way. You don't have to, like you see we have 3 lines or 2 lines with really a name that you're not likely to be used elsewhere. It's just a short way to do the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people like to use it, so you're gonna see it a lot. Okay. So is this clear? Okay. So this is the part that we didn't cover. Now we're gonna start having some fun with that. Now one of the functions in the lab assignment is sorted, build on that. So it takes a function that based on which it runs the sorting. So I'm gonna let you look this up, but we're gonna use this concept in something a little bit more sophisticated. So we're moving up here, and that is using it in data processing operations.